approval of minutes. Move the approval of minutes to the end. In the meantime, we're going to get some reports. I don't particularly have anything to report this moment. Steve, do you have anything to share with the group?
No, I mean, our meeting today, of course, will be focused on the phase 1 project and the entitlements. So we're not going to talk about a whole lot other than that. And to be honest, there's not a whole lot to talk about other than that.
Yeah, Steve, one thought is, I mean, since our last meeting, which I believe here is January 10th, I know the board has taken action to approve the EIR. Is there anything else, anything along those lines we need to share before your reports, or will that be included?
That's on my
Right, that'll be part of 4C, where Noemi's really going to walk us through all of that.
Okay, great.
But you're right, the board did approve that. One thing I will let you know is that we will be coming to you at some point this year to talk about the next bond measure for Malibu. There's a few things we need to kind of get straightened out first, but clearly we're not looking at 2022, which I think everybody has already accepted that that's the case. We don't need to do it now. We should do it now.
You would just to be clear, you'd asked this committee to sort of give you a temperature, and they had also said, we don't think this is the time.
That's right. Correct, Craig.
But we will be coming at some point this year to talk about going in 2024, just kind of start laying the groundwork for that. So there's nothing for me to report at all about that right now, other than just know that it's okay. And I think that's really all I have that isn't agendized, Carl.
Okay, great. So that's, we're not calling the meeting to order until we get the quorum. So, but I still think we're moving on at this point to the staff communications reports and discussion. So we're at 4A, the COVID-19 impacts. Shall we start there?
Yeah, so I think Kevin will go ahead and give us some updates here.
So we've talked about this a few times. There's not, that much that's changed recently. We have all of our HVAC improvements in place, and the filters are, we use less filters because we've got more central HVAC improvements covering those areas, but we do have the filters, and they're on reserve in case we need them for a different event, most likely some sort of a smoke impact from a future fire. So there's not a whole lot of updating on that topic. It's really maintaining the status quo. Steve, do you want to add anything else about COVID-19 related preparations?
I know, I think it might be that Carrie might want to just give the general district update.
Sure.
Okay. The general district update is at the moment, we are moving out of our most of our COVID protections. The Department of Health has relaxed most things, such as enhanced cleaning. So we're backing off of some of that additional cleaning and some of the other sort of checks and other things. We are still recommending that people wear masks, though it is not a requirement. We are still doing weekly test, and we'll probably continue doing that for the rest of the school year. But and we're still maintaining our enhanced ventilation systems. So those things we're doing, but other things we've pulled back on. And so far, so good. We're doing really well. We don't really see any numbers. So hopefully we'll be able to continue doing what we're doing.
Thanks.
Great, thanks.
I think Kevin may have one more thing before we.
Yeah, just another thing we're working on at the elementary schools in Malibu is PA clock systems. This is a replacement of the old systems that have been in place for a long time. I can't remember if I've talked about that in this meeting before, but the old systems are, I don't know if antiquated is the right word, but they're old analog copper wire, low voltage communication systems, which are being replaced with, IP based addressable new systems, digital systems. So the way we go about this is we leave the existing PA, the existing PA systems are often functioning at something, well, definitely something short of 100%, but we leave them in place so that they maintain whatever capabilities they have until we get the other system up and running and trained, and then we go back and we demolish the old system. So right now at Webster, we have installed all of the conduit, all the pathways are installed, and at Malibu Elementary, we are nearing completion of of all of the pathways. The next thing will be to pull all the wire to all the locations, and then we can install the devices and start testing the systems. The devices are in stock, so that's great because a lot of the, these are long lead items that we've been sort of preparing for this install for many months, and they're in stock and ready to go. So it's going to probably take, I would say, another 6 weeks before we're ready to really test these systems and turn them over to the school site. But that's just another project that's in process.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
And that's really something that's also needed for Malibu Middle High School, but we decided to address as we go with the, obviously, with this plan process, rather than spending money now only to have to be demolished and reinstalled. So everything's operable. That's the good news. Everything's in working order currently. It is antiquated, like Kevin indicated. It was assessed. It'll just be addressed with each phase of the project.
Great. Before we go any further, I'd just like to officially call this meeting to order now that we have a quorum, now that Lou's joined.
Hi, Lou.
Hi, Lou.
I apologize for being late. Thank you.
No problem. You made the quorum. Glad you made it.
Okay, Carl. So with that, unless there are questions on the stuff Kevin brought up, I think we're ready to move into our phase 1 new high school update.
Are you going to approve the meeting minutes first, or we're going to go directly to?
Oh, good point. Good point. Carl, you want to go back and approve the minutes?
Yes, let's do that. Does anybody have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lou. Do I have a second? I am happy to make the second. I don't know whether this is best, whether we do roll call or we just say aye. Let's say aye, everybody.
Aye.
Thank you. Any nays?
Aye.
Hey, Melissa, you're the last one.
Aye, sorry.
Thank you. That's 5. Okay, Steve, I think you're back on.
Wonderful. So I'm going to actually hand it over to Noemi, who's going to walk us through the phase 1 new high school update.
Happy to. Carrie, can I get access, please, to share the screen?
You're a coho.
Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So as Carl indicated, it's been a while since we last met, so we have a lot to cover, and I'll try to go and be as brief as possible. Some of the items that I'm going to cover as part of this update is I'm going to give you a quick overview of the project, where we are to date with the phase 1, as well as a schedule and budget update. I'll go into entitlements, and then we'll circle back and discuss how some of these issues, such as budget and entitlements, are having an impact to our schedule. And then we can certainly take questions from there. Let me just close these pictures. Can't really see the entire screen here. Okay. So in terms of project update, since we last met, we were in the process of, I believe we had already submitted increment 1. And the last time I met with you guys, I explained that we had approached the Division of State Architect, asking them to allow us to break up the project into 2 increments. And we did a similar request with the city of Malibu, basically asking for increment 1 to only address abatement, demolition, and rough grading of the Juan Cabrillo campus, as well as installation of underground utilities. We were successful getting that approved through the Division of State Architect. We submitted our increment 1 package on November 24th of 21, and DSA approved that increment 1 package on, I'm sorry, I see a typo there, on February 21st of 22. Increment 2, which is the actual construction of the phase 1 project. This is from foundations to the rest of the construction. That package was submitted to DSA on January 12th of this year, and we are anticipating to receive DSA comments by June 10th. And it's not like it was before that, as every department or every division starts to review, for example, as soon as fire life safety would be done with their review, they would start issuing comments, same thing with access, compliance, and then same thing with structural. Now they don't work that way. Unfortunately, we have to wait until they all of these divisions or disciplines finish their review before we receive all the comments at once. The good news is that they are staying very true to their schedule, and they've given us a schedule. They're saying that we'll have all comments by June 10th, hopefully sooner, just because we're seeing that, for example, fire life safety is at 85% complete with their review. And access compliance is at 95%. The only one that's lagging behind is structural. And there, I believe, are only like at 20%, but they certainly have until June 10th to provide the comments. Now we're anticipating an overall approval of plans and specifications by towards the end of September 27th. We have also been working closely. The NACKEA team has been working closely with our district court team and site administration. We have been holding a series of workshops to discuss furniture, furnishings, and equipment. We've been doing that for the last 3 months. In fact, we're going to go ahead and meet again with Patrick, Adam, and Beth this Friday. And each workshop, we're calling them a workshop, is a 2-hour spans. And our plan is, once we have that completed, our goal is, once we have essentially buy-off from Patrick and Adam, and they feel like we're ready to present to the staff, our goal is to start meeting with the end users, or at least with the high school end users who will be occupying the phase 1 project next month, starting in May. The NACKEA team have also requested samples. So some of the, or will be requesting, they haven't yet, but there are going to be requesting some samples of some furniture pieces that the site can come in, they can test, and we'll have options. Whenever we go to the end users, we'll have a minimum of 3 options. That way it's easier for them to select from. The good news is that there's a lot of furniture and a lot of equipment that obviously works well with that was ordered for the AB building. So we're not going to reinvent the wheel. Much of it will be ordered again for phase 1. We had a 2-hour walk with Adam and Patrick again, just to make sure we went through every single space within the AB building to see what works, what doesn't, what we should definitely order again, and what we should definitely stay away from. So that's how basically we're handling the furniture and equipment process. The other thing that we did since we last met, we have started the procurement process for construction management services. We issued the request for proposals in December of last year. Proposals were due in January 20th. We received 3 proposals from 3 top construction management companies. GAFCON, Cumming, and CCM partnered. These are 3 individual large, very well-known construction management companies, and they teamed up, they partnered to submit their proposal for this project. We also received proposals from Kitchell and from Element. Our reviewers included Patrick Miller, the principal, Michael Berg, myself, and Lou, who also assisted us with not only the review of the proposals, but also with the interviews, which we conducted on February 11th. And we awarded a contract at the March 3rd board meeting, and I'm happy to report that Element was selected for that process. And it was unanimous. They not only were the top candidates during the screening process of the actual proposals, but also during the interview process. Moving on to schedule and budget. I mentioned earlier that we broke the project into 2 increments, increment 1 and increment 2. The original construction schedule for increment 1 was planned to start June 1st of this year, essentially this summer, and would conclude on October 31st. We have since, we've asked CW driver to go because we were anticipating this June 1st start date. And again, we've been working parallel paths, really. We've continued with our design process, our DSA approval process, and our procurement process for our builder. As you know, we have CW driver, who is our builder for the phase 1 project. And now we have Element as our CM. While in the meantime, we're also trying to work the parallel path with the city for the CDP approval, as well as the specific plan approval. We have since, like I said, gone out to bid for increment 1. Bids when we issued the bid request on February 28th. Bids were received just a few weeks ago on March 24th. Pricing for this package was based on this timeline that I show here, June 1 through October 31st, 22. It's a 5-month schedule. And although we're showing underground utilities, we were initially showing them as part of an increment 1 when we first approached DSA and then the city. After the city and then with Coastal, they were getting the feeling that underground utilities really made up a new project, and they were just simply not comfortable with having that part of that. Even grading was a concern. But for bidding purposes, we went ahead and removed underground utilities. Therefore, the numbers that have come in are for strictly abatement, demolition, and rough grading. And when we did our procurement process to select our builder, our leaseback builder, CW driver, about a year ago, they provided a number not only for pre-construction services, but as well, they also included a price for the abatement, demo, and rough grading of the project, of the Juan Cabrillo project. That number that they provided came in at $3,091,984. Obviously, the plan was, once we were ready, once the plans and specifications were approved by DSA, that we would actually obtain hard numbers and bid the project. Since we have done that now, we now have a hard cost. Bids came in at $3.4 million. That's roughly, that's $368,969,000 above our original number that CW provided. And the reason behind this $368,000 increase is primarily due to a couple of reasons. Really, the main reason is the cost of fuel. Because much of this project involves hauling a lot of trucks, basically hauling of not only hazardous materials, as well as demolition debris, and then soil during the rough grading process. There is a lot of trucking involved. Therefore, the cost of fuel alone is extremely high. The other reason is, and this is also in part, is because, lessons learned from when we demolished building D and when we demolished building G, that we found areas with PCBs under the soil. We decided to carry an allowance for not only contaminated soil, but also the export. So the mitigation of the actual, should we find that there is any PCBs under the slab after we demo.
No, I mean, okay, so 2 things. One, it says it right here, but just so everybody understands, that's an allowance, meaning if we happen to not find excess PCBs, it won't be that full cost, correct?
Correct.
And then the
And
other,
just so you know, that allowance is $150,000. I should have mentioned that. So 150, if we don't use any of that, or even just a portion, whatever is remaining would definitely go back to the project.
thank you. And then the other question I had is the amendment to the project labor agreement that modified, I think, whether truckers are included or not, drivers are included or not. Did that impact this cost?
Slightly, but it did. That's true.
Okay, it wasn't significant.
No.
I mean, it was
Well,
up,
so-
but not significant.
No, and as you can see, the cost is really not significant. We were very impressed to see that our I mean, not only has CW Driver's cost estimator done an excellent job working with our NAC, KEA cost estimator. Every cost estimate that has come in has been pretty much right on in line with each other, right on track. And I think this also proves how accurate CW Driver's numbers were originally. We're only $368,000 above. And really how, like I said, is the allowance. And then the rest it's unforeseen. It's the cost of fuel that we were not.
Right. So, I mean, and fuel has gone crazy. I think we've all seen that at the pump, unless you happen to only own electric vehicles. But
And for you
one
guys,
thing I would,
go ahead. I'm sorry, Steve.
no, please go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say, it may be that folks who haven't been tracking the kind of cost increases we in the district have seen elsewhere, you probably want to mention those sorts of costs that make a 10% increase seem like very much a bullseye.
Yeah, this is 220K in fuel costs added, which looks to me to be about 7-8%.
Yeah, the point here is we have seen dramatically worse breaks from estimated cost to actual cost in other parts of the project, which is why I think you guys are getting this undertone that this is actually very much on target. We're fortunate. I think what you guys are saying is we're really fortunate that this has stayed as close to budget because
Correct.
the post-COVID environment, we're seeing construction costs escalating dramatically faster than this in particular. Right?
I think that's right. And that's actually the point. I mean, it makes the point that I was going to get to, which is to the committee. This is, it's an increase of 370,000, which as a raw number doesn't sound like a lot compared to the entire project, but it's so as Carl said, just the fuel alone was 7 to 8% increase on this. By delaying the project, we're going to be seeing increases like this that are dramatically larger. So it's important for us as a district to move this project forward as quickly as we can, which is why Noemi's on this. And we're gonna, when we talk later about the entitlement process, you're gonna see how that could impact us. And
right. And I cover the type of increase we're seeing per month in a later slide.
Perfect. Thank you.
Right now, we're only focusing on hard numbers that we have. There's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that it's only $368,000 above our original cost estimate. The bad news is that these numbers are basically contingent on the award of a contract by May 31st, because the contractors, exactly what Craig was mentioning, the costs are going up, inflation is going up. We're continuously seeing an increase in that in materials. Therefore, none of the contractors or subcontractors are willing to hold their numbers more than 30 days. In fact, they even have in their bids a stipulation that they base their numbers on a cost of $6 per gallon for fuel. Anytime they start to see a 25 cent increase, then that would trigger a change order, really, because, and I'll mention how many trucks in a later slide, but you'll understand why it's so important that the district moves fast and quickly with this project to take advantage of current prices, which are already high to begin with, but that they don't continue to increase to a point that it jeopardizes the project.
No, I mean, what's left to accomplish before we can do that via May 31st? If we're looking at a 6/1/22 start, from what I saw earlier, so DSA has said yes to us. We have the city and coastal commission between us and that May 31st date, and then the school board agreeing. Is that correct?
That's the problem. Essentially, we kept running with the project because we understand that this is an extremely important project for not only students, but also to the staff, the overall Malibu community as a whole. So even though we've kind of hit some roadblocks along the way with our coastal development permit, and I'll get to that in just a minute. From our side, from the district's perspective, we were running with the project. We did not put the brakes at all, just because we wanted to be ready in the event that the city would would catch up at some point and would, allow us to move forward as to not to delay the project, because and I'll get into schedule impacts in just a bit. And I'll explain why we really can't move forward at this time. So just give me a minute. I'll really quick, let me just finish this slide. Increment 2, like I said, it's the actual construction of phase 1. That one was scheduled to start November 1st and be completed by the end of July of 2024, with an anticipated occupancy of staff and students on August 2024. That's basically what we have been promising to the community, as you know, since we essentially started the campus planning process. So with that, I'll start with the entitlements update. Since we last met, the Board of Education has certified the environmental impact report, as well as the specific plan that happened at their January 26th board meeting. We have filed the environmental impact report with the Office of Planning and Research and the county clerk. That was done immediately the next day. In addition, since then, we've had a couple of meetings with the city, but we also had a joint meeting with the city staff, our district court team, and Coastal Commission. And really the intent behind meeting with Coastal was to present the project and discuss the specific plan, everything that's included in the overall specific plan. But really our focus was on phase 1, on the local coastal plan LCP amendments, those things that we're asking Coastal to approve, to amend, essentially, such as the height restrictions to the buildings, the ESHA, the environmental sensitive habitat area ESHA setback, and a few other things. So that was really our focus. And we met with them on March 7th. As to be expected, unfortunately, we really didn't get a whole lot of feedback from Coastal. I mean, they were very graceful and gracious to allow us to, spend time with them and really walk them through the entire process. And really, our goal was to get both agencies, City of Malibu and Coastal, and explain why it's so important that we move forward with the project in 2 increments. We also made an argument in a case at that point to Coastal Commission as to why we needed to proceed with the amendment, demo, rough grading, and underground utilities. But we're still pushing for underground utilities up to that point. Both Coastal and City, again, are really hesitant about allowing us to move forward, for lack of a better word. Really, I guess the main reason is because the specific plan and the CDP could be appealed by anyone in the community. And if that happens, and if they've allowed us to move forward with a portion of the project, then it could be problematic for them. What the consequences would be, I don't know. I really don't know, and maybe I know Renika is here. I don't know if you know if there would be any consequences of moving forward, but go ahead.
So it wasn't only the potential appeal of the project. One of the things that the planning department has learned is that there really, at least in our LCP, from what we've been looking at, there really is no regulatory framework for allowing a demolition to occur without a CDP. I know that the city has processed, so it's basically a couple of reasons. One, we can't really parcel out part of the scope of work for the CDP that's currently in the process. But 2, we really have no authority under our local coastal program to allow demolition without a coastal permit. And I know previous planning directors have allowed that to occur. And I know there's other LCPs in other cities that allow demolition to occur without a CDP, but ours does not. So it's basically 2 reasons why we can't find regulatory justification for allowing that to happen in advance of the CDP.
Correct.
Renika, when you say ours does not, is that a planning director's decision? Is that a city council decision? Whose decision is that ours does not allow that?
It's based on the language in the LCP.
Our LCP is, okay, big, you're saying
Yeah,
ours.
it doesn't include demolition of buildings as one of the things that would be exempt from needing a CDP.
And you're saying former planning directors in Malibu have allowed that even though it doesn't say that?
That is
That's correct.
correct. Yes, it was, we followed that exact same approach without having to go through a CDP process and while working closely with the city of Malibu and planning staff for the demolition of not only building D, but also building G. We just came to a halt when when this phase 1 project was presented.
Renika, other question. You said other cities have allowed this, even though it isn't explicitly referenced in their LCPs as well. Their planning directors have agreed to it.
No, I'm sorry, that's not what I said. Other cities in their local coastal program, they have a specific exemption for demolition
Allowing that.
in their LCP.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Sure, of course.
So the district understands that those two reasons, and even yet we were trying every possible angle, and Renika can attest to that. I probably overwhelm her with my questions or my emails, constantly trying to present a new angle. So basically, the last request was, can we at a minimum move forward with the abatement and the demolition of the campus? We will not do any rough grading. We will not do any underground utilities until the CDP is approved. We understand that, and I'll explain why it's so crucial in just a second. But that was also denied, just so you know. In terms of our coastal development permit application, we submitted our package to the city of Malibu on December 17th, actually of 21. Sorry, I just finished this presentation a little while ago. I'm noticing some errors here in the dates. December 17th of 21 is when we submitted our application. We received a letter from the city of Malibu indicating that our application was deemed incomplete on January 21st. They gave us 45 days to resubmit the items that they listed. It was I believe 3 or 4 pages long, 13 technical items that needed to be addressed in addition to a few other agency requests. We completed all of the requests and resubmitted again our package on February 24th. And then on March 3rd, we received a letter from City of Malibu, specifically from the geotechnical review review team, again, saying that their review of our application was deemed incomplete for a couple of reasons. One of them, they were trying to treat the district similar to what they would a residential commercial project, when in fact we're governed by DSA. So we were able to get that removed. And really the second one was just, they wanted us to update a couple of sections within the geotechnical report that we had submitted, just to reflect the seismic study that we did, that fault rupture hazard investigation that we performed earlier this year in January, and basically just to reflect those findings. And we've gone ahead and made those changes, resubmitted again on March 24th. So we have yet to hear back whether it's been approved. I suspect that should be easy, an easy approval. It was just making minor changes to the report. And then also within that same timeframe, we received Renika informed us that because this project, for 2 reasons, because this project required an environmental impact report, and because we are proposing to encroach into the ESHA setback, it basically triggered a different step that none of us anticipated or frankly have ever had to do before during our CDP process, which is the environmental review board, which is essentially a technical advisory board to the planning director. They
Noemi, that's a city group?
correct. It's a city group that again, it's our first time working with this group or addressing any of their concerns. Fortunately, there was a checklist that was provided. Renika sent us a checklist. We were able to prepare our package, and we have submitted that package so that the city staff can prepare their report and present this to the Environmental Review Board, ERB, for short on April 27th. It's a Zoom meeting. We will be, the district team and our environmental consultants will be part of that meeting. And essentially the way I was reviewing all of the previous, not all, but 3 of the last ERB meetings, just to get an idea of what to expect. They don't approve or deny your project. They essentially just review the information, and if they have any suggestions or recommendations for the project, they make those recommendations to the planning director, who in turn provides these recommendations to the planning commission. And I'm assuming these will be would be presented as conditions of approval at the time our CDP is approved. I don't know if that's correct. Hopefully that's how I understood it, at least. Renika, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's, well, depending on the recommendation, we also do check with the applicant to see if you're willing to take the ERB's recommendations. It's also based on the planning director. If he feels that it should be a condition of approval, we will propose that as a condition, but the planning commission is the ultimate decision maker on that.
Understood. Thank you for the clarification. And we have some just fresh off the press news. Our original goal was to have both our CDP and our specific plan go before the planning commission at their May 16th board meeting. At least that's what was discussed with Richard and Renika back in January when we had our joint meeting with them. But as you can see, our CDP package has not even been deemed complete. Therefore, we have missed that deadline. But again, trying to work every angle that we can just to keep this process moving along. Carrie has asked multiple times, and actually I asked that question on his behalf again today. If we could, not if we could, but what is the reason why we cannot separate the specific plan from the CDP? As you know, the specific plan was completed last year, and we worked very closely with the city staff and their various departments. We had input from various departments. We went through different iterations of the specific plan. They reviewed it and ultimately accepted this specific plan when it was approved by the Board of Education, because it's part of the final environmental impact report. So really that plan is ready to go. There is no reason why we need to hold that and submit it at the same time as the CDP. So fortunately, we heard back a few minutes before the meeting today from the city, from Renika on Richard's behalf, indicating that they will agree to take the specific plan only to the May 16th Planning Commission meeting. So that's great news. And we truly, truly appreciate their willingness to do that, to keep this process moving along.
No, I mean, I want to clarify, the May 16th meeting will not, that's too soon for the noticing requirement. So I don't know if maybe I didn't specify the time.
No, I said May.
I wanted to make sure, I don't want you to.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I found was that the LCP amendment requires a 10-day notice, but because the specific plan will also be amending the city's general plan and the zoning code, that does require a 21-day notice.
So then,
so the
We're
notification.
more than 21 days from a 5/16 meeting.
No, I'm looking at my, let's see, I'm looking at my spreadsheet here.
Is it 21 business days?
It's calendar days. For the May 16th meeting, the notification was due on the 13th of April.
That's more than 21 days.
It means from staff, but can't staff make that happen? You still have more than 21 days to actually put out the notice.
Well, so let me clarify. The notice is due on the 13th to get to the paper. The absolute deadline for that notice to be published is, let me check the calendar, would be on Monday, because it would
Right.
basically have to appear in the paper this Thursday. And since we're on Tuesday afternoon/evening, it's too late to meet that notification, that noticing requirement.
Once again, we have requested that the specific plan go ahead before the CDP for 6 months. And this delay is causing an additional delay. Go ahead, Noemi, please.
Well, we couldn't really do anything with the specific plan until the EIR was certified by the Board of Education.
And the EIR
And I
was
believe one of
certified.
the other reasons why it was prudent to streamline this process is that, there are a lot of concerned neighbors, as you might recall with the Field Light project, that could potentially appeal the project. Since both the Planning Commission and the City Council are required to review the LCP amendment, it just made sense to streamline the process to include the CDP. Again, we're willing to separate it
There are a lot
out.
of concerns.
That's
And
our
can you
risk
keep
to
the
take, not
specific
the,
plan
that
going
is
on
our
its
risk
path?
to take, not the city's.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you were saying. Could you repeat that?
The appeal is our risk to take, not the city's.
Well, I agree. Again, this is what the city had established as the most streamlined path forward.
It's
Again, you're
not.
willing to take that risk. That's your obligation, your prerogative. But it was really the city's attempt to give you the bigger picture for all the multiple components to this project.
The bigger picture is our project has been delayed and is continuing to be delayed by the city.
Yeah, the biggest picture is this is a Malibu City project paid for with Malibu money for Malibu kids. And while the school district is the Santa Monica Malibu School District, this particular project is Malibu money, Malibu kids, Malibu schools. The city and the school district should be like this. I swear to God, I'm sitting here saying the next bond we have, we need to find a way to have the city be the entity that builds this project, because the fact that the city is viewing this like it's some random thing being done by some random other group is beyond frustrating to me. These are your voters that we're talking about. These are your residents. This is Malibu people. This is Malibu money. You guys are delaying.
I understand the frustration. Like I mentioned to Noemi, with this project just having been ready to submit the middle of December, the fact that we're this close to a hearing is almost unheard of. I can attest to all the hours that I spend working on this project while there's fire rebuild projects that are not getting attention. I understand the frustration, but you might not see it from behind the scenes, but the city staff is doing everything it can to keep this process as expeditious as possible.
Renika, remember,
I really
this is a high school, this is a school project, which is different than anything else that's been done in Malibu. I realize there's an SMC project that was done. That was an issue, but 70% of the voters asked for this. So moving forward is something we need to do as fast as possible. If we miss this window, not only will we have this $368,000 increase, but if we, the school year is obviously August through June, and if we get delayed a year, we could be looking at 10 million, 15 million more. That's going to cost the residents of Malibu. And I'm not sure that's going to be very well received if the city's the one blocking this process, not any individual.
The city
I would
isn't
just
doing
like to-
anything to block the project. Quite the contrary, the city is doing everything it can to get this item before the Planning Commission and the City Council before it's presented to the Coastal Commission.
Yeah, I have
Lou,
to
I'd
tell
like to
you,
hear-
yeah, today's is the deadline to submit the notice. You can do it by midnight tonight, you'd still have it within 21 days.
Monday
Yeah,
is the
but-
latest, the paper will receive any request to publish the notice for the Thursday paper that's published.
Well, that must be a new policy, but nevertheless, the bottom line is I cannot agree more with Carl and with Craig. This is a Malibu thing. Malibu voters, 70% of them voted for this. And the one thing that we seem to keep having is the city is making it a little bit more difficult than other cities do. And, you know, while my impression from looking at this for the last couple of years is that it's always kind of like a game of chicken between the Board of Education and the city planning department. And the bottom line is we're supposed to be working together on this. This is a Malibu thing. It may be coming from the Santa Monica School District, but it's our money, our opinion. We designed this school, Malibu residents, and we have voted to pay for it. And, you know, I noticed that Carrie just sent a whole series of meetings for the Financial Oversight Committee. So we're starting to spend our money on this. This is our money. And we really need to have city representation for us, the voters that made this possible. And, you know, we really need more help from you.
And
is
here's a
what we're asking for.
follow-up to this, Renika. If we have this planning commission meeting on 5/16 and we have till 5/31 to lock in the cost, the planning commission is going to need to do a special meeting then.
We have also attempted to pull both the planning commission and the city council to have a joint meeting to also further streamline the process. And regrettably, and I'm not sure who made that decision, if it was, you know, I'm not sure what happened. It may have been a city attorney deal related to issues with the Brown Act, but that option was not received.
Is the reason for the Thursday date that you mentioned, the paper, is it because they only publish once a week?
That's correct.
They are not the only newspaper or publication of general circulation in Malibu, are they?
I don't think so. I know the
Right, so we
city,
could
the
maybe
planning
go with it.
department does use Surfside News. I don't know if there are other
It's the same deadline.
news outlets that, you know, we would rely on to meet the noticing requirement.
I mean, I
Can
think
KBUU do it? Can Hanslet's KBUU
it
do it?
also has to be I mean, in fairness
Newspaper.
to Renika, it has to actually be published in a newspaper of general circulation.
We
But I'm
have
saying-
Cherie here, Steve, who might be able to answer because she works closely with Malibu Times and I see that she raised her hand.
Bring it, Sheree.
Yes, hi. So I have been informed that Malibu Surfside News is no longer in publication. They went out of publication during COVID. Our only option to advertise in the Malibu area is with the Malibu Times.
I apologize. I meant Malibu Times. I'm thinking old. I've been around for a minute. I'm thinking about, I don't know why that popped in my mind, but it's Malibu Times. I misspoke.
How about the daily that is the Los Angeles Times, which obviously has reach here?
Yeah.
So Carl, actually, you're hitting on my point. There's a definition of a newspaper of general circulation. And it may even include the Santa Monica Daily Press that is considered a newspaper of general circulation in Malibu. I think we need to figure out what that is and see if there is something that we can get into by Monday to publish with the 21-day notice.
I will send a text message now to the planning director and get his thoughts on what options are available to the planning department.
That'd be great. I really appreciate that, Renika. Thank you.
No problem.
And just to,
And I want
oh, go
to,
ahead.
Marianne, I think you're breaking. We're not
Sarah,
hearing
we
you.
can't hear you, Marianne.
staff is extremely right now. It's terrible right now. Can you hear?
Now
we can
Okay. I just want to, let's remember Renika's the only person here, so let's try and be gentle with her. Staff is working their absolute hardest to try and get this through as quickly as possible. They understand how important this is to the community, and they're doing their very best. So I think just having some understanding and patience, and if the staff is able to do anything, they will move heaven and earth in order to make it happen.
And just,
So
go ahead, Carrie. I'll say it.
I'm just completing, I think what you're saying is, our hurdle is not just the planning commission. We then have to get to the city council, and then we have to go to the coastal
Coastal.
commission. So because we're not able to get the administrative approval that we have previously received, the dates that you saw about when we could start, even if the planning commission sees it in May, it'll probably be another number of weeks before the city council can see it. And then we're in the limbo of the coastal commission, which if all the cards play well and it goes fast, 3 months is fast, 6 months is probably normal, and it easily can be 9 months before we get that approval. And so we're losing substantial time. And right now with escalation, you can pretty much imagine on this project, it's about $1 million a month. It's or at least somewhere in that neighborhood. So it's not just that, it's like to get the work done, and there's only certain times a year that we can do grading. So we are looking at potentially this project being delayed and us not being able to afford it.
Well, it sounds to me like we're looking at delayed a minimum of 6 months to a year.
And right, and that leads me to my next slide, basically. So what does this all mean? It affects our schedule and ultimately will affect our budget and ultimately will affect our Malibu students and community, who are the most important ones, because like Craig and everyone else from the FDAC has said, mentioned, this is for Malibu, not for Santa Monica. So I wanted to summarize basically our schedule here for increment 1 and why it's so crucial that we don't lose that window. Really, our goal was to start June 1st, right? And that would take care of the abatement and the demolition. By not starting then it would result in a major impact to the site in terms of demolition noise. I mean, one thing is to be working on an empty campus, and another thing is working on a campus full of students and staff, and with parents coming in and out constantly. So that window of no students, no staff is extremely important for the district. And by losing that either pushes the project of an entire year out, or it means that we would, if we for some reason end up getting approval or CDP approval, in less than a year, that means that we would be doing all of this abatement, demolition, rough grading, which again translates to a lot of trucks, roughly 2,500 hauling trucks expected for demolition and rough grading alone. This is a lot of trucks in a narrow 2-lane street on Morning View Drive. So you can imagine the traffic impacts to our parents, to our students who drive. Clearly, we would sequence the trucks so that it's not during drop off or pickup, but nonetheless, it's 2,500 trucks in just that demolition and rough grading process alone. That's why that window of summer has been our number one priority not to lose. And that's why I have tried every possible angle, constantly emailing Renika and her team, trying to see how they can help make that happen. The other thing, like I said, that alone is an immediate impact to Malibu students and staff. Then we had the impact to our budget by not moving forward with our current bid. Then our guaranteed maximum price, this hard number that we received for increment 1, would be lost because their own contractors are only going to hold that number for 30 days and 30 days only. And as Carrie indicated, our bidding climate and with a lot of our neighboring districts are all reporting the same thing. They're showing an increase of roughly about $1 million in escalation for every single month that is delayed. And what does that mean for this project is that the new high school project would be at risk of not being built if we're starting to lose that level of dollars on a monthly basis. Because as it is, we are currently right on budget and we're seeing inflation through the roof. So that alone is already a concern. And by delaying the project a year, that could potentially risk this project altogether. And then it goes to increment 2. By delaying the start of increment 2 as well, we would not only very likely lose our A team, we call it the A team, because we our FDAC members that are participated in our procurement process, not only for CW driver, but for Element as well, can attest to the fact that it's a very thorough process. We spend a lot of time hand selecting those companies, those firms that would be the best firms or the best team for Malibu and for specifically for this particular. And right now we're very confident that we have the A team, not only in our builder, but also in our design team, as well as in our construction team, our construction management team. By delaying the project, these A team members would be lost. We would risk them being assigned to other projects, and ultimately opening our campus or the doors of the planned date of August 24, 2024 would be lost. So there are a lot of impacts. It creates a domino effect, as you can see, which is why we have been putting a lot of pressure on the city. And granted, I agree with Marianne. Radhika has done an excellent job. Both Renika and Joyce are great. They immediately respond anytime I email them. I know they're doing, and I tell them in my emails, I know that they're doing everything within their power to streamline the process. I just don't know what else happens with all of the other departments that is causing the delay. I know that they're severely understaffed. But again, this is, and I reminded them again in my email that we need to focus on the fact that this is a school district. This is for the Malibu community. We should not be treated as a developer or as a homeowner, because the impact at the end is to our students.
Can I say something?
Please.
But I know what you're telling us. I mean, this is something that we kind of had in the back of our minds for a while in terms of getting our permits, et cetera, for a while. And now it's all coming down to the crunch level. Now, the thing that's interesting, it seems to me, is that we all know about this now, and the school district knows about it now, and the planning department knows about it now, but the community doesn't know about it. And maybe this is the part where we have to start taking this almost a slide, turn it into a letter, and make sure that every single member of the city council gets it, every single member of the planning commission gets it, and we send it as an open letter to the Malibu Times. Because I think if we begin to get a little pressure from the community, because it's their money and their kids and their school, but they don't know that this is a problem right now. We're just actually beginning to hear about it now. So is that something that we can think about doing?
Actually, we're on it already, Lou. In fact, that's the conversation that Steve, myself, and Carrie had, which led us also to not only scheduling this meeting because we wanted to speed of where we are with the most up-to-date and current information, but really with the goal to what is the next step. And the next step is to get all of this critical information out to the community. In every potential form, have another town hall meeting, explain where we are, basically this entire presentation. And I agree, it should be in the form of a newsletter, letter to Malibu Times, so that everyone can read it as part of their newspaper articles, whatever it takes, really, because I mentioned in an earlier slide that this is what we have been promising our Malibu community, our students who have been, even during what is that called, Get Your Stuff Day last year. I was at Get Your Stuff Day at the middle school for 2 days. I had a table. Carl can attest to that. He saw me there at a table. I had the renderings for phase 1, talking to a lot of parents, to a lot of new middle school students that are extremely excited that they would be moving into this new high school building. And now, and all along, we were promising an August 2024 start date. And in terms of community concern or community opposition. We have had, understand that, history, other projects were perhaps handled differently. But I can only speak to what I know, which is the campus planning process and the phase 1 process. And we have community outreach has been our #1 goal for this entire process. You may recall that we had over 50 community meetings for just the campus planning process alone. To date, we have held over 35 meetings, actually 37 meetings for just phase 1 alone. We even had meetings during the environmental impact report process. And that would have triggered a lot of opposition just because it addresses the stuff that they don't want, which is traffic, noise, aesthetics, impacts to their views, lighting. And a lot of that was addressed. And really the only opposition we received was by a few community members, and it was related to the parking lot F on Merritt Drive on the cul-de-sac.
I have to tell you, my experience is that you guys have listened to all the community meetings, and you have, and you've responded to it. And, in my experience in the past 15 years, this is the first time that we've actually had some input and stuff like this. And you guys have listened 1,000%. So you have my admiration. But now the bottom line is, so the 37 meetings don't just get flushed away. If we don't get people to understand that this is the problem right now, this minute, then all of it's has a chance of disappearing. And that's why whatever you're planning to do, you need to do it like soon,
right,
immediately.
Like
As a veteran
right.
of the city council,
Mhm.
I can assure you that community pressure makes a difference. It really does. And we have enough people in just in the Sewell community that if we started sending letters to the city council and the planning commission, believe me, they would pay attention. But we need to start doing it now.
And we're ready to do so. The only thing, like I said, is we wanted to go before you first, the FDA,
Okay.
bring you up to speed, give you the most current up-to-date information, and let you know that that is the next step.
And you should be able to call on us, all of the members here, to back you up whenever we get to any of these situations in front of the planning commission or the city council. I know we'll all be happy to go and say whatever we need to make this happen.
And that's part of today, Lou. We do need you. We do want you. I mean, I'd love to see all of you there, but we do want you at the planning commission meeting. We do want you at the city council meeting whenever those occur. You're the voice of the community.
But Steve, we're talking about now before those meetings even happen.
Yeah,
try
no,
to
I'm just
expedite
referring
this
to the
process.
last thing that Lou said. I want you at those meetings, but I also want you out there talking to your neighbors.
So we want to get, we'll get this press release out and ready to go out. But we would like a few of you to supply some quotes, so it doesn't just sound like it's the school district making this comment, but that it does have some backing of our community and our facility district advisory committee. So.
And the press release, I mean, we'll draft it, but can it come on behalf of the facility of the FDAC for Malibu? I think it would have a lot more weight than coming.
Totally agree. I would flip it, Carrie. I would say it's the FDAC who's leading this charge on behalf of the school district and the parents and the kids of Malibu. This is our project. It has been from the very beginning. It's our money. It's this committee is the Sovereign Malibu Committee on this project. And I think that message needs to be crystal clearly understood by all of the Malibu City folks that this is us.
And what's our ask? Our ask is to get the city to expedite this process somehow. Is that our ask?
Well, really and it gets tricky because I know that the city has tried to see if there's a framework or anything that would allow us. Our first ask is to allow us to proceed with the abatement, demolition, and upgrading
On June 1st.
on June 1st. Because other than that already, by not doing that, that immediately starts that domino effect that I'm showing here.
Because as
And
we
then
said
the
earlier,
second, the second ask, if that is just a hill too high to get over, is to get the specific plan approved through the city council as quickly as possible to get it into the coastal commission. because nothing starts until then the Coastal Commission approves it.
And this is the specific plan, not the CDP.
Correct.
The specific plan, if it goes in May to the city, to the planning, and goes in June to the city, the best we'll do is 3 months to get through coastal. So we've got 5 months to complete the CDP.
Oh, okay, but we can't touch the CDP. We can't touch that dirt. We can't demo
We
the.
cannot start demo until we have the CDP currently.
So what you're telling me right now is tell me if I'm hearing this wrong. In the best case scenario here, we have 5 to 6 months before we could get the CDP, which means there's no chance of us doing demo this summer, correct?
There are two parts of this. If the city would allow for an administrative approval of demolition and rough grading, then we don't have to wait for the specific plan to go through coastal. We do have to get the CDP approved. If they will not approve the administrative approval for rough grading, then the pathway is we have to get through coastal with the specific plan, and the CDP has to be approved by the time that goes through coastal, but the coastal is going to take the longer path.
But
Well, that's okay. You're saying that we can do, the city can say yes to the demolition without the coastal commission having comment on that?
We were saying that they have done that in the past.
Yes.
And
They
we were
have for
saying-
building D and building G.
Exactly. And
Did
we're
they do that
saying-
because of the PCBs or
Okay,
part
so
of
that's
the
a really
court
good
case?
point.
That was the planning director's decision at that time.
Yes.
so,
Or maybe we can remind Richard that that's a possibility. I mean,
yeah, and Renika, to your point, and Marianne, to your point about they're going as fast as they can, that's very I take that as true, but going as fast as they can, having decided that what they thought was okay in the past is no longer okay, I submit to you, they could absolutely decide that what was okay in the past is still okay today and allow us to move forward with this administrative approval, which they have granted before. That seems to be entirely within the power of the city. And the fact that they have simply decided that the Lord has made a boulder too heavy to pick up is their decision. And they could pick this boulder up and say, no, you can go ahead and do what we've allowed you to do in the past. These are decisions people are making. So Carrie, let's be very clear. So our best ask, our number one ask, is that we get administrative approval from the city to move forward with rough grading, and we get that prior to June 1st.
Correct.
And that simultaneously the city joins with us to expedite to get their piece of the approval done and to work with us with the Coastal Commission to within 5 months have the CDP approved by
The specific plan.
the specific plan approved by the Coastal Commission. And those are ands. Do the first and do the second.
Correct.
And then we will be on track to what we promised the voter, what we have intended and what the voters of Malibu expect.
But the specific plan would not allow us to build. We still need to get the CDP, correct?
Right. Well, we need the CDP we really need the CDP to do, if I'm correct, to do the administrative, to get the administrative review to do the rough grading, the demo and rough grading. So that would need to that would need to occur before June 1st.
Correct.
We need the specific plan to be approved prior to beginning construction.
I have two questions. The first question, is all this approved through DSA? Are we ready to move forward as soon as
So
the
I
city signs up on this?
increment 1, yes, was approved on February 21st.
Okay, and then the second
Currently
question,
is under review, but we expect approval by September 27th.
You guys are working off the critical path right now, as I understand it. So the reason certain things are of tension is they are on the critical path to maintain the schedule. Certain other approvals, and I get confused between all the acronyms, are not yet on the critical path, and we will need to get those approved but they are not the short-term issues for having us fall off the critical path that is the road to landing this thing when we need to land it, right? So those are the two things right now we need taken care of.
Yeah, we have two paths potentially for critical path. If we can get the administrative review, we need to get the specific plan approved by the city council and the CDP approved by the planning commission prior to June 1st. And then we get the administrative approval for June 1st and we're good. That's going, and the specific plan will continue going through the coastal commission, and hopefully it will get out of the coastal commission by September, which will then allow for us to start construction in October. That's one path. The other path is if we are not going to get an administrative approval to do demolition, then we have to get the specific plan through city council as quickly as possible to the coastal commission, because we can't begin even starting demo until coastal commission approves it, which hopefully will be September, October, but that means we've already lost 4 months.
Yeah, Carrie,
And
option
you're in the
Carrie,
impasse.
option 2 does not allow us to do anything until, at the best case scenario, September. We missed the summer window for the demo. We
Correct.
can't, option 2 doesn't work. We need to go with option 1.
Yeah.
And if
Option
that
two
is
really
some,
wouldn't start till November, actually, if you think about it, by the time.
And that's the rainy season when the coastal commission won't allow us to.
yeah, that's best case scenario, which means we're a year. So option 2 doesn't work. Option 1 is the option we need to pursue.
Right, correct.
So I have a technical issue with this. And it's about assuming that you mentioned writing a letter to the editor on behalf of or as an FDAC. I don't technically think you can do, if you or I want to write a letter, we can make a decision and write a letter. The way that a Brown Act committee makes a decision is by voting. The way that a Brown Act committee is permitted to vote is by agendizing an item. We don't have that agendized. So I don't think that the committee as a whole can send this, but I do think that members of the committee representing the committee can send it. Just, I want to be clear in that the way it is signed, and Craig, I really probably need direction from you on this, but I think like the school board couldn't make a decision to send something without it being an action that they take. Am I right about that?
No, you're right. You're right. But I'm talking about how how this is framed. And I think it needs to be framed that this is a Malibu project approved by Malibu voters with Malibu money for Malibu students. And it should be, the members of the FDAC who are Malibu's Brown Act appointed, superintendent appointed representatives should be the lead voices in this. It shouldn't be Carrie Upton and Steve Massetti and Ben Drotti. It should be Carl Randall, Karen, I think you're co-chair, and then everybody else.
Yeah.
Right.
Agreed. I don't think we can put all of our names on it, Craig, but in theory, we could put my name and 3 other people.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be framed around this is Malibu, Malibu, Malibu. So back to the option 1, that's what we need taken care of. And so my question, I heard that we need coastal to act by June 1st as well.
That's not happening.
No, he meant sent to coastal by, well, look, if we go with option 1 and we get administrative approval to do the demo abatement and grading, I mean, that administrative approval does not require coastal commission action.
Okay.
Right, Carrie?
That is the way we've done it in the past.
So
Correct.
that's what
But
we
then we
want to
would just
have.
need to go, but we just need to get to coastal before we start construction.
But
Right.
does that require us getting through the planning commission and the city council? Or does that mean, or is that a?
No.
planning
No, in the
director
past-
decision?
It's
the-
administrative.
Yes, it's
Meaning-
nothing, it's
Yeah, go ahead.
in-house. Yeah.
So
it's
fundamentally, Richard Malika needs to decide that this can be done as it's been done in the past.
Correct.
He and the city manager together, yes.
Correct.
Renika, if you're there, could you concur on that, please?
I'm sorry, I was on another call. Could you repeat the question, please?
Veronica, what I said is fundamentally what we're looking for here. If this is an administrative thing that does not necessarily require the planning department or planning commission and the city council to make this decision. The ask is of Richard Mullica to continue to make the decisions as they've done with Building D and other historical things that we've done here, instead of changing the rules on this process, which appears to happen based on the LCP. You've said that he continues to go with what's historically been decided, and administratively, they agree to let us start the demolition on June 1st.
I have forwarded that question to him already, because I know that this seems to be a hot topic regarding the phasing of the project. So he is aware that the FDAC is interested in getting an administrative approval for the site prep work. I know that if the planning department has made an error in a past decision, that we won't continue to make that error. But again, I forwarded him that request, and I will follow up once I get a response.
I apologize, Monica. I missed the last 20 seconds. My laptop died.
No, it's
But I'm
all
back in
good.
here.
Basically,
back
what
on the
I
phone.
was just saying was, if the planning department did in fact make an error in allowing past demolition to occur without a CDP, I don't feel that we could ethically make another decision that would also be an error. Again, I did mention to Noemi about a month ago when we were talking about this issue, if anyone can find, maybe your legal counsel can find some regulatory justification for allowing the demolition to occur without a CDP, we will definitely take a look at it to see if it's something that we can stand behind. Unfortunately, we have not yet been able to find that.
Okay. I asked because it sounds to me like maybe this was, whether it was an error in the past or if this was simply an interpretation. If this was an interpretation, that's a whole different thing than an error.
Well, if the interpretation was flawed, that's kind of what I'm calling an error.
Well, I mean, it seems like that has been done a number of times with no negative impact. So to me, this is a distinction without a difference.
And then I was just looking at the grading. There's grading within the ESHA buffer? Like, I'm not sure if maybe it's the coastal resource too, that might also be a potential issue with
think that's a good
allowing
point.
administrative approval for grading.
So that's a good point, and that's a part we could avoid. I mean, I hear you,
Yeah.
Monica, and I think that is an area where we would legitimately say, you know what? If it's going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem there.
For sure.
We need to be finding a solution. My message is we need to be finding a solution to this together. And I wasn't kidding about saying we should have the city of Malibu run the next project, because if this were a city of Malibu project, Steve McClary would be standing behind Richard's desk and Richard would be standing behind your desk, and the city would find a way to make this work. So I wish we could all imagine that that's how this is happening, because
That's exactly
is
how
how
this
it's
is happening.
Well-
I'm not sure why you don't see that, but that's exactly how this is happening. You
Does
know, I have
Richard
thousands
know
of
the
applicants
fact?
that are beaten down my door demanding attention, but all of my efforts have focused on this project.
Is Richard aware of the slide and the issues that are apparent to us today? The fact that, we could run out of money, we could not ever get this accomplished. Does he know about this particular slide right now?
This is the first time I'm seeing this, so I doubt any of this has been communicated to Richard.
No.
Well, I'd
or
like,
any other
I'd like-
I
department for that matter.
have sent an email to you, and I could have sworn that Richard was on it, or you responded CCing Richard, explain, but not to all of this detail, but it's definitely explaining why that summer window cannot be lost, especially because there's going to be a lot of trucking, the impacts to traffic and noise. I addressed that in that email. But some of this stuff in terms of the bidding climate, this is just the information that just came out recently from our bid, which was just on the 24th.
But clearly the last couple slides in this thing need to be seen by each of the city council members and understanding what's going on here, because it will impact them as well in the process, and whether they want to share it to Richard Mullica or how we want to do this. I would like to make sure they see that, and I would be more than happy to send that these last couple of slides onto each of the city council members as an individual within the city and as chair of the FDAC, but as my title, but certainly not as a piece from the FDAC because we don't have that agendized. But I would be happy to send that on if we feel we need to do that.
And if it rises to that, we could schedule a special FDAC meeting with proper notice that does pass that resolution and does formally, take action. That's another thing that could happen.
Yeah, we can do it
another
as early
thing-
as Friday, but we could certainly do it on Monday if we needed to.
Craig, you were going to say?
Sorry, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, so Noemi and Steve, I think you're asking for our help here. Have we made some decisions today and how we're going to help you?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
think
Greatly
we're on the right
appreciate
track.
that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you guys.
I said, thank you. We greatly appreciate that.
We are, several of us are certainly happy to step in and call, write, et cetera, to our city council members to see how we can handle this. We have a deadline coming up very soon. And schedule's already crunched what you're looking at, and that's at risk. But the idea of special meetings is certainly a possibility within this. Not just ours, but the planning commission and the city council. If they can't do a special meeting for a $150 million new high school.
Do you need a motion for a special meeting?
No, we can just set it.
What's our lead time? What's our posting ahead of time to have a meeting?
72 hours. In emergency, we could do less, but 72 is typical. I don't remember the definition of an emergency, in other words.
Well, this is as close to an emergency as we're going to get.
Yeah, and I guess it is new information. Carrie, would Sarah Warrenbrock be able to give me guidance on that?
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely do it. I mean, yeah.
I just
And look,
Also, when you look,
we're up against
you
it
look at-
because of the summertime to do the demo. If we can't get that done, then we're delayed for 9 months anyway, or 12 months anyway. So, let's take our crack at this now, see if we can get the city to move in some way. Renika and Marianne with full respect on that.
Noemi,
I'm
I'm
just
not sure
wondering-
if you were able to reach out to Stan to get his opinion about the demo being exempt from needing a CDP.
I did.
Like I mentioned, we haven't been able to find that, but again, if you or your legal team has some additional justification, we would love to be able to rely on it.
Correct. And I did immediately after I received your email. I went
Yeah.
to Stan and our environmental team as well, just to see if they would interpret things differently.
Mhm.
The way the LCP is written doesn't really provide for that. We could move forward with the abatement, but definitely not the demolition as it currently stands. It really comes, if we're basing it on the language of the LCP, if we're basing it on how the city planning director and city manager have allowed us to proceed previously, then that's different.
Renika, I'd like to get back to a place where our disappointment goes back to the Coastal Commission and not with the city. Historically, that's where it's been. I'd like to get there. I'd like to get there. I'd like to get past this part with the city, and if we have to jump through some hoops, and our city council and Richard have to jump through some hoops, get some legal decisions that allow us to move forward as we have historically, I would like to do that. And let's put the onus back there because we know we're going to have problems there. But if we can get this piece started, then we can attack those pieces as they come.
And that was why I asked the question. That would give us a greater confidence in allowing it to go forward as an administrative plan review. And again, I understand that the city has allowed it to happen in the past, and regrettably, I hope it wasn't a blatant error, but
Yeah.
from what we're finding, it may have been. So again, if there's some additional information or justification that would prove that not to be the case, we would gladly look at it.
I mean, justification, just this slide alone gives the justification. The problem is how this translates or links to the LCP, and it really doesn't take school districts into consideration. Again, we're being treated as developers versus a school district.
Well, the thing is that the entire city is in the coastal zone. And so, you know, I know that typically a school district doesn't have to worry about the local approval for development permits or entitlements, but because
Correct.
the entire city is in the coastal zone, we do have the LCP to adhere to.
Correct, but even, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I've heard that even projects in Santa Monica, which are also in coastal zone, don't have to go through a lot of these hurdles, correct?
Yeah, the difficulty here is that the city of Malibu, like no other city than I think one other city in the entire state, has adopted their entire zoning code as part of their coastal development plan. And that's what's created the issue, because schools up and down the state in the coastal zone are not having to follow the rules and the requirements that are being required of the Malibu schools. And it is causing delays and cost and significant impacts, and has for each of the projects that have been done since the city formed their own coastal development plan. It is
Well, that
unique.
was the Coastal Commission that wrote the CDP, the LCP,
Yes.
not the city. It was the Coastal Commission, just to clarify.
I was
But
going to say the
understand
same
what
thing,
you're saying.
Anika.
Okay.
I was with you, and I was going to say the same thing. The Coast Commission did that to us, not for us.
That's
Well, and
true, absolutely.
The other thing to remember is that both the municipal code, the general plan, and the local coastal program don't really look at institutional development standards. And that's one of the reasons for the specific plan, is that there really
correct.
aren't any institutional development standards. Historically, they've always been looked at as residential properties. So that's just the failure throughout the years of making that adjustment. And
Right.
that's coming to a head at this critical moment.
And again, that's part of the justification and some of my emails that the school district, I keep saying we, but the school district should not be treated as such and should be exempt. I mean, one more justification do we need? It doesn't explicitly mention school districts. It's just a broad statement.
Do we need to take a vote on this, or I
don't-
think we have a consensus that,
Okay, I don't think you can
Carl's
take-
gonna write a letter, and then a few of us might be able to join in on that, as long as we're not violating any Brown Act, or are we
I
gonna
think we're gonna have
schedule
a
an emergency
special
meeting?
Right.
We can also schedule a special meeting if we'd like.
Yeah, I'm happy to do a quote or write in if I'm allowed to. Just let me know when I'm allowed to or not allowed to do.
Well, so here's the point. Do we want to do a special meeting so that it's from the entire FDAC, or does it matter if the chair and a couple of members do it? Is there any extra value to waiting 3 or 4 days to do a special meeting?
I think we should speak as an entire body. I think that takes more weight than just part of us.
Okay,
We could
let's
do
see how fast
both,
we can
you
do a
know.
special meeting.
We could do both, can't we?
Yes,
I mean, if we start to get this information out now, we have to wait 72 hours before we can have another meeting, right?
yeah,
Well, I
Yeah.
certainly have a couple of city council members I could call and share these slides with,
yes.
and I know Craig does too.
Yeah, Lou, you're absolutely right.
Mhm.
So let's do that, and let's have a special meeting, and we can have do it as well. But if you want to use my name on that letter, feel free, Carl.
She's like, I'll figure out. Like, I can get it for you.
Okay, all right. Noemi, is there anything else? I think we have a plan here. We would definitely like to do this special meeting as soon as we can. If it's
Okay.
72, it's 72. If there's a precedent to do this in 24, 48 hours, I think everybody here would be willing to do that. And yeah, I think we start contacting our city council members this evening.
I will send the slides.
Please do.
Mhm.
All right, is there anything else in your report regarding this?
No, that's all I have. That was it.
And Steve, you have anything else on this item 4?
I do not.
So I think we're on to our environmental issues with Carrie in item 5.
I don't really have anything to say about that.
Right, this
Okay.
is something, Carl, that we leave on here just in general. You know, it was mostly about PCBs, obviously. I've left it on. It may
Yeah.
be time, and Carrie, maybe you can weigh in. Is it time for me to remove this from the agenda from now on?
I would remove it because I think any other PCB issues are going to come up with the demo
one.
of the
Sure.
campus.
Project.
The one,
Okay.
the demo we're
Project.
starting June 1st.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I think that's it. We have, do we have any public comments? Have we received anything?
I did not receive anything.
Anybody who's on this call that would like to speak? Now is the time. I don't think we have anything. So do we have any future agenda items? I think we just made that plan.
Yeah, we'll set the date on the future meeting with this being the sole agenda item.
Okay, great.
And really, it's just the press release, right? Basically.
It's a press release, and again, Noemi, send these few slides on.
Absolutely.
I definitely plan to take some action in the next short little bit.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else to say before we adjourn for the evening? Or care to make a motion to adjourn?
Do we have a date for the special meeting yet, or is that just gonna come to us? Is it gonna be Friday or Monday?
Oh, shoot, we can't do Thursday. I was gonna see if we could do 48-hour notice. Talking to Sarah, I don't remember it's 48 or 24 for emergency. And then the Thursday's a board meeting. So that's probably not the best call.
So it sounds like it's Friday. So let's plan Friday and just make that, put it out, notify it, and let's do it for Friday.
If we do it for Friday, will we be guaranteed to get it in the paper on Monday?
No way. Oh, wait, for Monday, for the Thursday. Yeah, why not?
The
It's gonna be
daily press is a daily paper, and it will not probably make, or it may or may not make the noticing requirements that Renika was talking about, but just from the news in the news, I think the daily press, it could get into the daily press, next day. And then
And it's
What
the
we-
editor at the Malibu
Well,
Times.
if we have this Friday, we have time to put it together to submit it to the Malibu Times on Monday as well.
also true, and the Malibu Times has an online piece which can go out ahead of the printed piece.
And
Correct.
we can send it to with all students as well.
Yes.
All schools,
Oh,
all
yeah,
three
you can
schools.
send it, Ben could send it out to all the parents.
Correct. We'll make sure it goes. to
Yes.
all the parents.
What about the radio station?
And Hans.
This is certainly up Hans alley. He would like this.
Can you give him a call and just tell him about it?
Carrie, do you want to do that or do you want me to do that?
I can call Hans.
Oh, do you want it to come from Carrie or do you want it to come from Carl?
Hmm.
What were you
It probably
suggesting?
should come from Carl if it's
Yep.
if it's a Malibu centric sort
Yes.
of
Yeah.
message.
It would carry a lot more weight.
Yeah, Carl, if you could call Hans, and then if he needs more backup or information, he can call Noemi or myself.
Mhm.
I'm happy to do that. Can somebody send me his number?
I'll do it
I
right
don't,
now.
I don't think I have it.
I'll do it right now.
You
I
got
may
it?
well have it, but I'm not positive.
I'm happy to talk to him too, of course.
Well, this was a thrill pack meeting.
And so it goes. Here we go. I think I think we go to the city council members before we go to Hans. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes.
I think they should understand what's going on before we get to the media. That would be fair.
Right.
Well, Karen would be fully supportive of this, that's for sure.
She has to understand what it is, just as the other four need to as well.
Yeah.
And I think council will unanimously be sympathetic to this. We just need them to be read in on the information, and I think to understand what a broad tsunami this is, rather than just me being the guy who tells them, or, this is an enormous deal, which hopefully has a relatively straightforward solution.
And you have a lot of credibility when you talk to him, Craig. So if you feel free, it's my feeling.
Sir, yes, sir.
Hi,
So-
Stacy.
I'm going to confirm that we can do something shorter than 72 hours. If it is a full 72-hour notice that we need, unless you guys want to meet at 7 p.m. on Friday night, it would seem like we would want to meet maybe Monday morning or something like that. But if it has to be a full 72 hours, is everybody okay meeting at 7 p.m. Friday night?
I am.
I think it's important enough.
I'll be
am
at
too.
Coachella, sorry. Can be there.
I
can
don't
try
think,
to
guys, I don't
Zoom
think,
in.
not
Come
as
on,
fun as
Karen,
Karen,
they've
I'll
got
be
cell
there.
service.
I don't
They've
expect.
got
it to be a
cell
long meeting.
towers here, so you definitely could,
I can
you'll have
try.
no problem being in touch.
Carl, you.
I
you
don't
were
think
saying
Harry
something.
Styles goes on till like, 11
Midnight.
o'clock,
Yes.
midnight.
So you have plenty of time. It's okay.
Okay, I'll tuck in a corner and do my Zoom.
Carl, were you going to say something?
No, I think it's fine. Let's do the 7 o'clock on Friday night. My point was that I don't think this will be a long meeting.
I agree with you.
No, well, it'll be short.
Okay, let's do that.
In
Okay,
fact,
thank you.
if you distribute the thing ahead of time, it could be a very quick vote.
Which we
It
will.
could be 5 minutes.
Yes. And Steve, if somehow we can do this in 24 hours, we can do it tomorrow at 7, let's do that.
Okay, I'm gonna text Sarah and see what we can do.
All right, great. Anybody care to make a motion to adjourn? I think we know where our next steps are.
I'll
Hi,
make a
Stacy.
motion to adjourn.
Second,
All right, everybody. Good night.
Thank you,
Good
everybody.
good
night.
night. Thank you very much.
Talk to you Friday.
Good night. Thank you.
Steve, Noemi, and Carrie.
Carrie.
Yes.